Okay, for this week, I'm glad we have been able to schedule this topic because I think it's fading away from the headlines and the front pages, but it is very, very fundamental for our governance, our republic, and our apparent democracy. Apparent, because if we do not get clarification on this matter, then our democracy will be further put into a hazier picture. And I'm referring to the new COMELEC chairman, Abbas. I just know him as Abbas because that's enough. And it's enough that he is a mystery. And we have that image of Abbas there. It was a surprise disappointment. And of course, there were people who were rooting for our regular guest on COMELEC issues, our friend from Biliran, Quezon, no?
No, Biliran Leyte.
Biliran Leyte, yeah. Glenn Chong, Attorney Glenn Chong, who has been focused on these issues. But of course, the choice is not just limited to Glenn Chong, but other individuals who are not only versed in election law, but also in information technology, one of the vital pillars now of our election system and a big question in our election system, electoral system. So we invited our colleague from GNN who hosted the show before here, Mr. Toti Casiño over here, and I was going to ask you if you've had a haircut since we last met. It's tuloy pa rin?
Tuloy pa rin.
Tuloy yan, well, that's one of the unique traits of Toti here. Aside from a very nice radio voice, but he is a serious IT professional and a serious patriot focused over the past at least 5 years, maybe more, on our electoral system, especially with the introduction of computerization in our elections. Now, the appointment of Abbas in the position of COMELEC chair now, it was not the first surprise about Abbas. In 2015, when he was appointed to COMELEC, there were already questions. I think we can project a news item that I plucked out from the past. This was in 2015 when Noynoy appointed him, Noynoy Aquino appointed him. And it was the Muslim, some members of the Muslim community who questioned this. Who is Sharif Abbas? I have many of these items from the 2015 news items. But President Duterte has appointed Abbas, and I think generally, even those skeptics from our community who are the critics of the electoral system, who scrutinize everything here, have been very careful not to be negative. But still, the questions are there. So again, an editorial from the Manila Times, the Smartmatic question. There's another one. This is, never again to Smartmatic. We have heard all these problems about Smartmatic. Is Abbas competent to deal with this question? And why are there no issues being discussed as he sits now there on this very fundamental matter? So, Toti Casiño is here to help us clarify some of the questions here. Toti, please.
Hi. Good evening.
Yes.
And thank you for guesting me again once again. With the issue with Commissioner Abbas, he was appointed and proclaimed or confirmed as a commissioner in 2016, appointed 2015. And under the 1987 Philippine Constitution, under Article 9 with regards to the constitutional commissions, any sitting incumbent commissioner cannot be reappointed on the chairmanship, because the issue here is, although I'm not a lawyer, there was a vacancy on the previous seat. It was not a retirement, it was a resignation on account of allegations charged against this former chairman who actually would have his day in court to prove his innocence. And because of that, his position, being appointed as the COMELEC chairman, is to further the remaining tenure. So there is a constitutionality issue here. There was a case filed by then election lawyer who became COMELEC chairman, Sixto Brillantes Jr. versus Heidi Yorak, who at that time was sitting as commissioner, wherein the former chairman, Davide, was appointed by then President Cory Aquino to be the chair of the inquiry committee with regards to the coup that occurred during that time. And the Supreme Court ruled that the position of Heidi Yorak, who was commissioner in the acting capacity, was considered null and void. So there's got to be some consistency here. Even though he has served 1 year as a confirmed commissioner, there is some constitutional issue. Nothing against this person, although we don't know his background. We understand he's a 36-year-old. If ever he's going to be confirmed, will be the youngest. But how can we be consistent with our rule of law? And if this would allow that, that would cause a precedent until the next appointee would happen. And for us, besides the appointment of a sitting commissioner to become the chair, the other irritant, the other issue is Smartmatic. Now, the reason that then Chairman Bautista submitted his resignation, because of the allegation of him having questionable amount of deposits in obscure banks. That's not even a big commercial bank, but in the tune of short of ₱1 billion. When did he receive this money? Whether it was the time when he was the chairman of the PCGG or was the time during his chairmanship as COMELEC, because that is to be investigated, that is to be classified, whether there is some issues between Smartmatic, who is the vendor or on the election system, not only in 2016, but also in 2013 and also in 2010, while our community has been totally against Smartmatic for so many lapses and glitches that up to this day have not been explained. And to us, it is subject to data manipulation, whether everybody's voters' vote will be really counted by the machine or not. So, having these two issues, the constitutionality of the appointment of Abbas and the presence of Smartmatic is really the crux of our democracy. And if we could not really press down or pin down on the matter whether there is a significance or connection between the resignation of Chairman then Bautista and Smartmatic, that is to be unfolded, that is to be explored.
Yes, and the question of Smartmatic and in connection with the Abbas appointment is this. He was also part of the controversies or the controversial period.
Yeah.
He was silent, he was quiet, of course, he was in the background, but he was there.
He was there.
And so our question now is, what was he thinking, what was he doing during that period?
Correct.
And since there are many questions, including Andy Bautista's performance and actuations as chairman, which Abbas nor any of the other...
Except Commissioner Guanzon.
Okay, that's right.
During the insertion of that controversial script where they changed the question mark into Enya during a live transmission, she herself expressed to the media that intervention was unauthorized. Okay, and under the law, that should not be allowed. That's already close to electoral sabotage.
So we should congratulate and appreciate Guanzon on that point. But about Abbas, since
he was silent, and therefore silence means he's already concurring. In other words, he does not know anything about information technology.
Or he was, what's the word for it, compliant?
Compliant or so, yes, accomplice.
And finally, I think, in fact, even Commissioner Guanzon and all the members of the commission, given the revelations about Andy Bautista and their silence about these issues before, really cast doubt. Correct. Even on Commissioner Guanzon, who's a friend of mine, personal friend of mine.
Right.
And therefore, it would have been much more fitting if we had a new commissioner, not involved in any of the questions or silence of the past, who would project a new hope. So, what do you think of that?
Well, let's look at the process of appointment. The power of appointment is granted to the chief executive,
Yes,
is the president of the Republic. And however, whether the president has a good information, good knowledge, and familiarity with the appointees is another matter. There are also a selection committee under the office of the president, which provide all the candidates that will be nominated and then later on to be appointed. And whoever the screening committee or the selection committee under the office of the president, particularly for the chairmanship, is also has to be transparent, has to be exposed and let it be known, because we do not know where the recommendation of Abbas came from.
Yes,
Who were the parties that recommended Abbas? What was his criteria? What was his eligibility to become? Because under the Constitution, they require at least 10 years had experience in lawyering, because the office of the commissioners in the commission in election is also quasi-judicial, meaning they also hear cases, electoral cases. So they have juridical responsibilities. Has he attended his time in court? Has he known the merits and demerits of any arguments in court with regards to evidence? Is he that experienced on that? So it's not as simple as getting the appointment and you have the automatic knowledge and authority to become the center of attention and the center of knowledge or information, with particularly whether it's on the technology or on the juridical issues as far as electoral protests are concerned.
So I think it's only fair to be at the minimum uncomfortable with the appointment up to this time because of the mysteries.
Yes.
Because this is public office.
Right.
There should be transparency.
Right.
It should be very upfront and very clear to the public what this appointment offers.
Correct.
In terms of expectations of the nation.
Because otherwise everything is speculation.
Yeah.
There are allegations that Commissioner Abbas was belonging to a certain group based in Davao, and they call the Old Davao Club. And unfortunately, the executive director of right now in the COMELEC is also from Davao, and he too is suspect of being partly behind the manipulation and allowing Smartmatic to become there. So there are a lot of issues that are still yet to be addressed. But from the purview of the president, who right now is pretty occupied in trying to raise back the stature of the country, which is not an easy task. We cannot just allow it or exempt it that because for lack of knowledge, lack of oversight, he appointed somebody he does not know is qualified for the job or falls under the constitutionality. But nonetheless, the president also has the capability or has the authority of the function to know in depth the screening committee on how was the process of selecting or appointing this appointee.
Well, we are only a year and a half to the next election.
Right, right.
And what is your... What do you think is the threshold that we should have things clarified?
Under Republic Act 9369, immediately after an election within 1 year, the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee must convene. Okay,
so when is that going to be? Maybe
June of 2017. It's already in November.
It's already passed.
It's already way past, and they have not yet convened, and there is no report whatsoever, because the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee will hear the reports with regards to the performance of the automated election system that was used in the previous and the immediate election. And there's got to be a representation of the public, to say the least, that because of that intervention of Smartmatic during a live transmission, changing the character from one question, and then the results of one presidential candidate who was at that time leading by 1 million, and all of a sudden the following morning was overtaken.
That's right.
So those are really highly questionable results. And come 1 year and a half, you have another election, which is the midterm election. Where are we going? Where is this leading to? So not only is there responsibility on the account of COMELEC, there's also responsibility on the legislature. Now, with regards to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee, the chairmanship then was chaired by Senator Laila de Lima, who we all know is already incarcerated. So that seat is vacated. And we don't know how true this is, but we heard that who was confirmed or who was appointed or selected by the Senate President was Senator Trillanes, who again, we also raised the issue, what is his competency in understanding technology and all of his exposures and declarations against the administration has been too controversial that does he have the right mind to sit on a very highly regarded position as chairman of Joint Committee. So there are a lot of dynamics.
So again, this is still a mystery because there's no clear announcement on who is going to chair the JCOC.
Yes. Because what we all know is one of the authors of the reform of the election law is who's now sitting as the incumbent is Senator Dick Gordon.
That's right. Yeah.
And we would prefer that it would be Senator Dick Gordon, being at that time he was the author, together with Congressman Teddy Locsin, who co-authored the reform, be the person to be the chairman of the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee and to see whether there are flaws in the existing law that needs to be amended. And we feel that appointing Senator Trillanes as also equally does not qualify him or fit to the seat, similar to Commissioner Abbas as chairman of COMELEC. So you have these two issues that are really pending, and we really don't know what's behind these appointments.
But so far, this is just unconfirmed talk, no? So at least this is ventilated, and maybe they'll take the questions more seriously.
Yes.
And going back to the COMELEC chair, since he has not spoken out on anything yet, we still really don't know what he has in mind.
Okay. Again, as part of the process, he too has to go to the Commission on Appointment, or the Committee on Appointment, if they call it that way.
That's one.
Right.
And what about the constitutionality, as you have mentioned? Among the community scrutinizing this appointment is the theory that maybe President Duterte is such a good tactician that he's appointing somebody that will be temporary because it will be questioned. And maybe he has somebody else in mind. But of course, this is speculation.
Yes.
But you've read some of the communication on that. What's your reaction to that?
Well, if it does turn out to be some kind of a tactic by the president, then lo and behold, that'll be a big surprise to the constituents, and somehow the president has shaped up, against all the slip-ups that he might have encountered through the past. But, that's his character, being someone who was a former mayor that automatically got elected to the highest office in the land without any experience in the national issues. It's really a feat in itself. And to run the country, given its current condition, it's no simple task. And we give that space to the executive to allow him to adjust and to mature in time, so that probably some decisions he will come to arrive into would be more precise, would be more accurate, would be more reliable, credible, and maybe as some say, in what we hear from the circles, is that maybe it's a tactic, and if that's the case, that's an interesting tactic we'd like to see, because that's quite surprising.
But we don't have much time sitting and speculating because the elections will be coming very soon.
And then the Senate will commence sometime at the end of, sometime anytime now, I believe, or would that be before the Christmas break? So they will probably working double time on all these cases. The civil society will be active in petitioning for the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee to convene. With regards to the appointment, I heard and I understand that a certain group of lawyers might be filing a case in the Supreme Court to question the constitutionality about the appointment of Commissioner Abbas as chairman, even in the acting capacity, because his appointment was not really because there's a retirement, but because of the vacancy left by the sitting chairman.
Speaking about appointments, new appointments and questions, is the new installation of the PPCRB chief, Rene Sarmiento.
Yes.
And Rene, of course, is a low-key character when he was in the COMELEC.
Right.
When he was heading the COMELEC.
Yes.
But again, being silent on many of the problems that cropped up. So you have any reaction to this? Well, PPCRB, of course, has also been, we've had experiences with PPCRB as shall we say, consentidor
Right.
of some of the misdeeds of
Actually,
Smartmatic.
Okay, with regards to PPCRV as an office, okay, let's treat it as an office. In 2 instances, they allowed a Smartmatic technician to intervene once in 2013 to make adjustments on the results, because the results being projected on the website and the results being generated by the transparent survey have some variations. And they gave a lame excuse that it was a double entry on the part of the PPCRB staff as against to what the decryption and encryption is going on. And to us, that's really not a credible reason, because that is subject for forensics investigation.
That's right.
And for us to determine whether, and that can be done electronically, digitally, but given their permission to allow us to do that, but they've not done that.
What about that, just trying to recall, PPCRB and the Hello Garci case?
Hello Garci.
It's quite far back now, 2004.
But there was no automation at the time.
That's right. No.
Hello Garci was purely manual. But in this case, with that intervention of Smartmatic in 2013, which is already questionable in the premises of PPCRB, and PPCRB allowing that to happen, PPCRB also lacks the competence. Having the former Commissioner Rene Sarmiento to be the head of PPCRB also puts PPCRB at a quandary. It does not establish any more credibility.
That's right.
Because the incidents that occurred when they allowed the Smartmatic in the 2016 election to change the character of question mark to the Enye also happened in the premises of PPCRB. So twice it has already occurred in the same premises. And to us, if PPCRB does not see any issue, does not see any intricacies or suspect of any intervention by a technician, then they are not competent. So, and putting in former Commissioner Rene Sarmiento does not even add credibility. In fact, it puts shades of doubt. In fact,
and having the old boys go around the different chairs doesn't make me feel happy and comfortable.
It's like a musical chair.
And so this leads to the final question. Is there an attempt of Smartmatic with its billions of resources to control these developments?
It's more of a business interest for Smartmatic to stay in the country and to be the
have the monopoly also.
Well, whether to have the monopoly or what have you, to them it's a showcase for them to market elsewhere in the world. And they say the Philippines has been using their technology for the past 3 elections, so the level of satisfaction must be there. But actually, they do not divulge all the cases filed against Smartmatic. Even to this day, these courts have not even heard of. I mean, have not even subjected to the hearing. So, because the past administration also sat on those cases, simply because the one that is put on question is the elected president of the past administration. So, there are some repercussions. Had the court addressed that and listened to that, and then we all know that the appointment of the Chief Justice was subject to the impeachment of the former Chief Justice, also adds color to the juridical matter as far as the electoral system is concerned.
So there are 2 things that we should be waiting for. If the cases will be filed to question the constitutionality of Abbas' appointment and clear up the mystery, and the JCOC, I think that's the other question. Final point and message to our
Well, we are hopeful that from your viewers to be more active, particularly in social media, and if they can petition a letter themselves to submit it either to the Committee on Suffrage in the Senate as well as Committee on Electoral Reforms in Congress, write their congressman and tell them they would like to convene and let the story out. What is really the true score with Smartmatic? Is there any other vendor? Are we really stuck up with this vendor who has been performing and has showed us badly and has already raised a lot of issues? And we're hopeful, and I appreciate your allowing us to feature us in your program. And we know that you have a very wide viewership, and we would request your viewers to do the same and probably petition it either on social media or even in writing.
Okay, well, this is the first opportunity to refocus on this issue since the appointment of Abbas. We should do it more regularly in the coming weeks and help clear the smoke from this question. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. We hope we have started the ball rolling on this open discussion on the appointment of Abbas. Maraming salamat po and have a good weekend, and thank you, Toti, for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Carmento.